The G8 was originally designed to allow the rich world to talk about help for the poor, but increasingly, and since the days when Russia was co-opted in, it's become increasingly concerned with security, nor are they all friends here. Yet again, Syria dominated here, and hardly surprising. On a day when another aircraft was shot down to the joy of the opposition, Human Rights Watch announced that they were sufficiently outraged by the Syrian government's tactics to describe air attacks on civilians as a war crime.
We've been to 50 sites where these air attacks took place. The attacks appear to have been repeated, indiscriminate in terms of their impact on civilians, and in some cases they appear to be deliberate targeting of civilian areas. And of course, to deliberately target a civilian area is a war crime.
But what to do about this humanitarian nightmare when you're one of the world's most important diplomats? John Kerry left the G8 talks to get some fresh air and have his photo taken with some startled American tourists next to Buckingham Palace, where the Queen lives.
Do you feel like you're making progress or anything?
Good discussion.
Maybe, but it's hard to escape the sense that they don't have much idea how to move things forward. Away from all the television cameras, the British and Americans here in particular have been insisting that they agonise every single day about the terrible humanitarian situation inside Syria. But they also accept they find it increasingly difficult to get their heads around the idea of arming an opposition that's showing increasing signs of having links to Al-Qaeda. So instead, they're emphasising a different direction of travel, a political solution. By the end of the talks, the hosts were still making encouraging noises about the gap between the West and Russia getting a little bit closer.
This is on track to be the biggest humanitarian catastrophe of the 21st century so far. What is happening in Syria, with now about 1.25 million refugees in neighbouring countries, with more than 5 million people in urgent need of assistance.
But the problem, the biggest problem, is how do you possibly hold talks with President Assad with the precondition that he will have to step down? That's where things fall apart with Russia. So another conference ends. The next one will be in Istanbul. It's an awful lot of travelling without any obvious sense of direction. In his news conference after this, William Hague, the British Foreign Secretary, admitted that this was an historic failure of the international community to find any sort of agreement on Syria. And he was asked by a reporter, well, can you think of any other issue during the history of the United Nations that compares? And frankly, he couldn't really give a very good answer.